Hello everyone, welcome to the program. My name is Janet Unterschlag and I am here to do some English with you. And we want to thank Liberty for the fact that I am here to be able to answer the questions that you've sent in this afternoon. It's thanks to them that we can manage this program. And you can find us on the Tenfold Education app. Please won't you look? Lots of past papers and things that will really help and support you, so find us there. Then also look for us on WhatsApp. And remember to send in your questions the way the students have done this afternoon so that we can revise what you want to revise. And find us on YouTube at Mindset Learn so that you can get in touch with us, see what we can offer you, and then ask us what you want us to do for you. So I have 4 questions this afternoon. I'm going to be watching the time because I am worried about getting through all 4 questions in less than an hour. The first one is Setsoto Start Victory. Sent in a question on My Children, My Africa. So when you look at your exam paper, you are meant to recognize the passage. You're meant to know what you're looking at. And they do tell you where it comes from. But looking at it, you should be saying to yourself, oh yeah, I recognize this. This is Mr. M's monologue. He's talking to the audience. It's the way that Athol Fugard gives us some background to him and tells us what he's thinking and feeling. Fair enough. Let's look at the questions. A question like this one is asking you for nitty-gritty details. You need to read the play to be able to answer it and get that mark. It should be easy if you know what you're doing and if you know the play really well. Then the statement didn't come through in the copy that came to me, but explain why it's false. You get no mark, obviously, for saying that it's false, but you read the statement and you say, because in the passage it says X, or in the play it says Y. That's how you answer that. Watch that mark allocation. Make 2 points. Say, this is the wrong thing here, this X, because in the play it's Y. You know what I mean? Watch your mark allocation. Then this one, when they say refer to the lines, please, please, please go back to the lines. You're looking for people and you're looking for a comparison, and you must look at only those lines. Don't go outside those lines. So let's go back, and it's between walk out and wild beast. So you're looking for those lines and you're going to see what you can find. Right, so lines 5 to 7. Right, that's where we're looking. Read the lines. I walk out into those streets. I see what's happening to my people. It jumps out and savages me like a wild beast. So the first question was, who are the people, right? The people. So you're going to answer here, my people. These are black people, and they are people that live in what in the play is called the location and which we might call the township, right? Then it says what comparison is made. So when I walk out into those streets, the streets of the location, I see what is happening to my people. We know that this is the very dangerous time around 1985 with all the protests and the problems. It. So say to yourself, what is this it? So go back to the previous sentence, because in English, the pronoun must refer to a noun. Let's assume that the noun has already happened. It's already been in the text, right? So we go back and we look for another it. There it is. We go back. The one. We still don't know what it is, this it. Believe me, I wish I could. Ah, we come to the word heart. So what is this it? This is his heart that jumps out and savages him like a wild beast. So what is the comparison? The comparison is between the effect of his heart on him and the effect of a wild beast on a person. Right, we're told that a wild beast savages. So think a lion, think of a dangerous wild animal. Think of an elephant, think of a hippopotamus. If a hippo savages you, you're basically dead. Very, very dangerous creature. Why? Think of those teeth. He just goes right onto you. And a crocodile, think about the pressure and the amount of weight that the animal has. So if a wild beast savages you, the beast attacks you very, very violently. So what is he saying about his heart? Look at the lines again. When I walk out onto those streets, that's the streets of the location, and see what's happening to black people, what the police are doing, what the authorities are doing, what the white municipal government is doing, what the national government is doing, the white national government, his heart jumps out and attacks him like a wild beast. It's how upset he is, how he feels as if his heart is actually jumping right out of his chest and attacking him. He is so upset and angry and frightened and all the other things. Right, once again, we're told to refer to lines. We have to identify the figure of speech in those lines. And then what else do we have to do? We have to discuss the comparison. So lines 8 to 9, the whole zoo of hungry animals. Back you go. Don't say, oh, but I think I remember it. No, you don't. Go back and have a look. Right. He says, I've got a whole zoo of, in here, where? What has he just thumped? His chest. So he has thumped his chest, right? Where's my microphone? I don't want to hit my microphone. So he's done that, right? He's hit his chest. And he says, I've got a whole zoo of wild animals in here. So what is that? These are his feelings, because he's talking about his heart. His heart is jumping out of his chest. And he says, it's a mad zoo of hungry animals, and the keeper is frightened. So who is the keeper? He is. So what is the figure of speech? The two most obvious figures of speech in English are the simile and the metaphor. Always look for those first, just in case. So we look, do we have a simile or do we have a metaphor? Well, we've got this description of a zoo, but obviously he cannot have a zoo of wild animals in his chest. So this must be a metaphor. Right. Identify it. His feelings, his emotions are being described as a zoo of hungry animals. Now, is it effective? Well, what would a zoo of hungry animals be like? So start with that. We're told that they are mad and they are savage. So they would be very angry, very upset, and very dangerous because they are now hungry. They would break out and attack, right? And what is he saying about his feelings? Because he says that they are in his chest. So his feelings, his heart. So let's do the feelings on this side. He's saying that his feelings are dangerous. That he believes that he could attack somebody because of how strongly he is feeling. And he's frightened. Why? Because he doesn't know how to keep his emotions under control. When he looks at what is happening to black people, it makes him so angry and so upset that he finds it difficult to remain calm. Now, this is quite important when we consider the end of the play, when Mr. M is accused of not caring enough for the situation of black people. Right. So let's go back down. Now, this is a little bit more difficult. Why? Because if you read the passage, the answer isn't there. You have to know the play well enough to know what Mr. M says after that extract. So just before the broadcast, I looked up the extract, and I've got it here. If you've got this text, I'm on page 62. So he says that he's got hope, but he says that hope is dangerous. So if we just look here, I'm here on the page if you've got the same text as I do. So he says hope is broken loose. So we've got the image of hope as an animal, right? If an animal breaks loose, it breaks out of its cage and it's now out there, and if it's a dangerous animal, you're in trouble. And he says, how does he keep hope alive? And this is the paragraph you need down here, right? He says that he feeds young people to my hope. That's what you need. Every young body behind a school desk keeps it alive. So you've been warned. If you see a hungry gleam in my eyes when I look at your children, you know what it means. That there's a monster that stands here before you. And there's his full name in case you didn't know it. Okay, so putting that aside, what does he mean? The only way that he can continue to hope that there will be something better in South Africa is to believe in the young people. And I think that's true of any of us who are teachers. Why do we teach? Because we believe in the hope we see in our classrooms. When we look at the world in which we live, which is everything from the digital vibes through to what's happening in Afghanistan, what do we hang on to? We hang on to you people. We see you in the classroom, we hear what you have to say, and we hope. So this is terribly important. So how does he keep his hope alive? Because he believes in young people. He believes in the youth, and that the youth have the potential to change the world. So obviously he wants to make a difference in young people's lives, and then he hopes that those young people that he can impact will then go out there and make a better world. Right, and you need to know that from reading the play. Right, and then 2 character traits. What does this mean? If you don't know that, look at this word. Character is what a person is like. It's that personality. So they're asking you what he is like as a person. But notice in this extract, my warning to you, don't learn things about Mr. M and say, Mr. M likes debating. If this extract is not about the debating aspect of Mr. M, so you must go back to the extract. So let's see what we could say about Mr. M. One of the things he would like to be, let's just change color here, he'd like to be calm. He believes in reason, and he believes that reason should control the emotions or the feelings, and he would like to stay calm. Who is this gentle Chinese heart he's talking about? Do you remember? It's Confucius. It's the philosopher. So, but he realizes he's very emotional. So what do we realize? He has very, very strong emotions, but he believes in trying to control them through reason. That's one thing. And then what else could you say about him? That he is politically aware, that he's politically alert to what is going on in the country, that he's very aware of what it feels like to be a black person in South Africa. You could say that about him. If you look slightly further down, he talks about the children who are hungry and they're dying of malnutrition. So he is a man who has, do you know the word compassion? He has compassion for the children. But notice it makes him very angry, makes him very dangerous. So what are we looking at? Is you have to base what you say on the extract. The evidence must come from the extract. Remember, if you just quote, you're going to get naught. You have to say, this is what it says in the text, and this is what it shows me about Mr. M, and this is why I am saying that. So it's evidence discussed. You have to talk about the evidence. Do not think for the 2 marks, that you can have quote number 1, quote number 2, and move on. No, no, no. It's going to give you 0. Then we have sweating. Literally, if you sweat, if I'm sweating, if I say, oh, Becky, it's so hot in here, please turn on the air conditioning. I'm sweating. They're literal drops of sweat. But we also sweat when we are very emotional. We come back to this word. And when we are suffering from stress and pressure and anxiety. Do you know the word anxiety? When we are very anxious, when we are very worried, when we are frightened. Okay, so that takes me to the end of my first question. And I must just thank, let's just go up to the top again. Can I please thank the student? There you are, Setsoto Start Victory. Thank you so much for sending in a question, because I'm really hoping that that's helped you, not only with answers, but on how to answer those kinds of questions. We're going to take an ad break, and then I'm going to take the next question.
Did you know that Ethiopian runner Abebe Bikila ran the 1960 Rome Olympic marathon barefoot? He was originally given a pair of shoes from a sponsor, but he didn't find them comfortable and decided to run the marathon barefoot. He not only won, becoming the first sub-Saharan African to win an Olympic gold medal, but he also set a new world record.
No one ever asks why we do the weird things we do. Like, why once is never enough? Or doing 2 trips is just one too many. Why do we, before we use these, or say 5 when we mean 20? Why do we have second thoughts? And think that lift buttons make them go faster? Why don't we walk there? Cross our fingers, touch wood, and struggle to hide our true feelings? At Liberty, we want to know all the weird and wonderful things that make us human, because human beings, being human, are what we make financial solutions for. Liberty, in it with you.
Welcome back, everybody. It's English this afternoon, and we thank Liberty that we have this opportunity to receive and answer questions from you. Remember that you can find us on the Tenfold Education app. Please won't you go there, have a look. There's lots on offer. Find us on WhatsApp. Good place to send us your questions, as the students have done this afternoon. And you can find us also on YouTube at Mindset Learn. So we are available on a number of platforms for you to reach out to us and then to ask us to respond to you. And that's what I'm doing now, because I have a question from Lee Lizo. This is a question 5, so this tells you it's language. There's the passage. I'm worried about time, so forgive me if I don't read the passage. Let me just look at the questions. So this is a typical FAL beginning of this 20-mark section. You are told that there is one mistake. Now be very, very careful about the way they're going to mark it. You are going to write down the question number. You're going to number in the middle of the page. Then you're going to go A. And all you do is write down the word you have corrected. You do not write the wrong thing. So, frustrated with her provincial You're frustrated with your, not your life, but your life. That's all you do, please, people. You write the question number, a life. Now, what do a lot of students do? I'm not even going to write it down because I'm scared you're going to see it and then do it. They write live, then they put a dash, and then they write life. Gets marked wrong because you haven't followed the instructions. And students throw away their marks because they write down live, then they look back, then they see what the correct thing is, and then they put a colon or a little dash and they write the correct answer. No, no. Please, every mark is precious. Right, let's look at the second one. And we've got Belle sacrifices her own freedom and you just write down the correct preposition. Okay, so look at what they're testing here. That's the verb, and they wanted the noun. So they're checking that you recognize the correct part of speech and that you realize that they are spelt differently. Here, they are testing prepositions. So they use this first question to test 4 different things, and in that way, sort of try to cover the syllabus. What's wrong here? So you are just going to write down C, and you're going to write that word with the apostrophe. Please learn the apostrophe. I would say that this comes up in every single home language and FAL paper every single year. If I revised nothing else, I would revise the apostrophe, okay? I'm telling you it's going to be there. At least I hope so. Right, we're missing one. Isn't that interesting? Something hasn't come through. There's always a D, people. So I don't know what the D was here, but there's always 4 at the beginning. Right, reported speech. A second thing I would really revise is reported speech. Okay, we're doing this with our grade 8s and 9s at the moment. Why? Because it comes up in every single matric exam. So we might as well practice it from grade 8 to matric in the hope that you can just do it like falling off a log. What is the first thing you do when you go from direct to reported speech? You take out the inverted commas. That is the very first thing you do. Then I like the word that. Now the next thing is, if the introductory verb is in the past tense, then every verb in the direct speech goes one back into the past. So this introductory verb is in the past tense. So where are my verbs? Will stay, that's it. So this has got to go one back into the past. Right, what's the next thing you change? You change the pronouns. And you change the adjectives. Belle, she's a girl. Belle told the beast that she would stay at the castle with him instead of her father. 5 marks. We've changed, we put in the that, but let's go with the she, the would, the him, the her. Oh, they really want the that. Do you see? Go looking for it. Okay, lovely. Moving on to the part of speech in the passage. So go back to the passage. Please go back to the passage. This is a noun. What tells me about a noun in English is an adjective. This is the finite verb. Right, you need to do some revision of parts of speech. Right, done that. Tag questions. What am I revising with my grade 8s and 9s at the moment? Tag questions. Why? Because they come up in the matric exam. Belle fell in love. Now, this is in the past tense. If I give you an auxiliary or a verb that you can use in the main part of the sentence, then it makes it easier. But there isn't, I can't say fell, whatever here. I have to say past tense. Belle fell in love with the beast. Did and she. Right, so what have I done? Let me just get another color. Let's go back to my red. This is positive, therefore the tag must be negative. You always have a pronoun here, and the pronoun must match. It matches Belle. So Belle fell in love with the beast, didn't she? If it's falls, Belle falls in love with the beast, doesn't she? You have to add that in. These people fall in love with the beast, don't they? So the really difficult ones are the present tense when you're doing your tag questions and the past tense. Otherwise, if I give you a verb you can use, was. You were late, weren't you? He wasn't ill, was he? Don't forget, if the main part is negative, I go to positive. If I give you must, you mustn't cheat in an exam, must you? Then you can use the one I give you. But just look back at this. The difficulty is in the present or the past when you have to put in the do, the does, the didn't. Right. Revised tag questions. Notice they're coming up here. Right. The hyphen. The hyphen joins words to make a compound word. Please would you learn that? Home language, I do hope you're paying attention, home language students. Please pay attention to this. This comes up so often in home language. What does the hyphen do? It joins. That's its job. It joins words to make a compound word. So you need this. Home language, you absolutely need this word. Promise. They get quite cross if you don't use it. Right. Past indefinite tense. Okay. Where's my verb? Let's just do this again. What is a finite verb? What is a finite verb? I won't leave you in suspense. Subject, number, person, tense. So you look at the tense. This live action film is part of it. What is tense are we in? We're in the present tense. Which word told me present tense? There it is. Make it past, and we are done. Okay, so thank you very much to Lilizo for sending in this language question. Please also send in questions, and I'll remind you about that again at the end of the next ad break.
Did you know that the alpine swift can stay in flight for over 6 months without landing? Researchers attached tiny sensors to monitor the activity of these migratory birds and discovered that they could stay in the air for over 200 days while traveling from Europe to Africa. They eat insects, seeds and bacteria that float in the sky. It is still not completely understood how they're able to sleep while in the air.
Hello everyone, once again, welcome back. We are looking at questions this afternoon sent by students, and we have another one here. Mjezu Mabandla Ishmael has sent this question on My Children, My Africa. Thank you very much for sending the question. I really do like to know that I'm answering what you need. So once again, we should recognize it quite quickly. Okay, as you look at it, you say, okay, this is when they are practicing for the competition. They always tell you, but you should recognize it anyway. Now, the first question, you have to know your play really well. You read the play until you are able to answer that question very quickly and easily. Notice they give you 4 on this side, but 5 on this. So they are trying to make sure you don't just do it with a process of, okay, there are only 4, I can match them. So please, you have to know your play very, very well. Now, the next question I want to pause on, because you get this in FAL and you get this in home language, and the question is answered really badly, and I don't understand why. You are asked to imagine that you are the director. You have to tell Tommy to do. Now, home language, they usually ask you about tone, and they ask you about movement, and they ask you about body language. So that is, I would lean forward, or I would turn my back, or whatever. So for home language, this will be a mark out of 3, but it's basically the same question. So here, FAL students, you're just being asked, what should he do? So you just having this isolated, but they want 2 points. So you need to say, I'd get him to do X because of this, I'd get him to do Y because of that. You cannot be sure as the candidate. Are they just going to give you to do 2 things? I'd get him to do A and B, and as those your 2 marks? Or are they expecting a reason? Home language students, they want a reason. Use this tone because of this. Move in this way because of that. This body language because of that. So FAL students, because you're not sure, are they giving you it for just move like this? Or do they want move like this plus a reason? I would give all of that. I would imagine that that's 1 mark and this is 1 mark. Okay, so Tommy asks, what's going on? Go back to the passage. Go back to the passage. So, hi folks, sorry I'm late. I've just got here myself. Mr. M is the one who's been waiting. Sorry, teacher, the game went into extra time. Did you win? No, we lost 1-0. Good. But it was a good game. We're trying out some new combinations, and they nearly worked. The chaps are really starting to come together as a team. A little more practice, that's all we need. Hear that, Mr. M? What did I tell you? And look at him, smiling, happy, even in defeat, a generous word for his teammates. What's going on? Right. You know, or we know, that Isabel and Mr. M have been talking about losing before Tommy arrives. And Isabel has admitted that she's a very bad loser. She doesn't like losing. And she said to Mr. M, can you give me advice on how I should become a more gracious loser? And Mr. M said, I'm a really bad loser myself. Now that's very important, because later on in the play, when Mr. M thinks he's lost his matric class and he's lost Tommy, he goes to the police to denounce, to hand over the names of the student leaders. And he realizes afterwards that he might have told himself it was for a good reason, but actually it was because he was a bad loser. So it's a very, very important little conversation that they have. But Isabel here, when Tommy is clearly not that upset about losing, Isabel here turns to Mr. M, and all of this is addressed to Mr. M. And Tommy says, what's going on? Now, what would I have him do? Right, try to see it on the stage. Tommy comes in, sorry I'm late, folks. Sorry. Isabel says, no, I've just arrived. It's Mr. M. Sorry, teacher. So he's turning between the two of them. Then she asks him about, did you lose? Yeah, we lost. Fine. And then she turns and she talks to Mr. M. So one of the things that I would have Tommy do is to turn and look at Isabel and turn and look at Mr. M. And then I'd have him look between the two of them. What's going on here? And you know what happens? You often tilt your head to the side. So you go, what's going on here? Isabel, what's happening? So those are my two movements. He's going to look from one character to the other, and he's going to tilt his head as he, sorry? Sorry? Because we do that. Sorry when we're confused. Hey, sorry, what's happening? Right? You could also, if you feel I don't like the tilted head, get him to do this. So what's going on here? Hey? So while you're doing that, we often do that with our hands as well. So possibly if you don't like the tilted head, do this. And then explain why. Isabel is referring to a conversation she has already had with Mr. M when Tommy had not yet arrived. So she's continuing that conversation, and Tommy is confused and doesn't understand what's happening. Home language students, you'd be asked the tone. So you'd say the tone is confused because he doesn't know what's going on. You'd say he looks from one to the other because he's trying to make sense of a conversation he doesn't understand. And his body language would be the shoulders or the hands or the tilted head. So do you see, whether you're home language or FAL, if you're doing My Children, My Africa, Macbeth, Hamlet, Othello, Crucible, you will get a question that is this: if you were the director, what would you tell the character to do? How would he speak the lines? So, advice: be sensible. Don't say crazy things. Secondly, look at the character. What is the character thinking? What is the character feeling? And how would that show in the body language, in the movement, and in the tone of voice? It's not a difficult question. Imagine it's, what is the character feeling here and how would he show what he's feeling? That's really what it's asking. It's just phrased as, you're the director, you're giving advice to the actor, what would you say? Please won't you practice that? I have known examiners ask teachers if we actually bother to teach that, and we do. Hang on, where am I? Right, here. Isabel's definition of a good loser. Use your own words. In other words, it's in the text. Just go back to the text, use your own words. I'm moving on because I've got quite a lot to cover. Again, go back to the text. She's talking about revenge. She's talking about beating opponents at hockey, right? But you need to go back to the text. You need to know why I'm saying that. Now, let's pause again. We're going to look at those lines from then let's see to English literature. We have to identify the figure of speech. Fine. And we don't have to discuss it. I'm quite surprised because there's an A, and what was I expecting with the B? Why is this figure of speech suitable? Why is this figure of speech appropriate? Because that's the kind of thing that they ask. Now, home language students, you get this combined into one question. FAL, you get divided, usually 1 and 1 or 1 and 2. Home language, you get it as a 3-mark question. Discuss the figure of speech. Discuss why the figure of speech is appropriate. So please let's practice this all together now. Lines 23 to 24 from then let's see down to English literature. Then let's see down to English literature. Right. We've got to identify the figure of speech. So read that sentence. Home language students, you can practice this with us, please. Where is the figure of speech? In which word? It's in that word. So, what is an arena? It's a place where you perform, or I'm sort of drawing an amphitheater. I'm imagining a stage here. I'm imagining people sitting here. Or an amphitheater can be where you run a race, maybe like a grandstand, or you're having a play or some kind of performance, right? So what figure of speech do we have? Do we have an actual arena in the play? No. So it is a metaphor. So the space, what is an arena? It's a space. The space of a play or a performance or an athletic event is being used to describe the space in which English literature will be discussed. Now, with an arena, I think of a performance or a competition. So I think if we're thinking of athletes, let's think of a competition, because this applies very nicely to the English literature competition that they've entered. So the English literature, the space in which they're going to be competing, is being described as an arena. Why is it appropriate? Because it gives the idea of performance in which one is judged, in which one either succeeds or fails, and it has the idea of competition. So you'd need that for the second part of the question if you'd had it, or home language students, you'd need it for the second part of that question as well. Right. Now, this is a very typical 3-mark FAL question. One of the themes in the play is conflict. How is this theme relevant to Tommy? You are given a statement. All you have to do is find the evidence and discuss. Home language students, this is very like your poetry essay question. So for you, it's out of 10 marks, 6 on content and 4 on language. For FAL, it's 3. You are not marked on the language, so it's double the marks for home language, and you get a language mark as well. But it's the same question. How do you tackle it? You'll be told, home language students, one of the themes in the poem is conflict, discuss. To what extent you agree with it. Look at tone and imagery and diction and what have you. Right, so how do you do it? Can I say it again? You find the evidence, but you don't just write down the evidence, you discuss the evidence. So if you go to Tommy, you would say, okay, what conflict does Tommy have? Between his loyalty to Mr. M and his loyalty to the comrades, between his affection for Mr. M and his loyalty to the comrades at the end of the play. And you'd say how he deals with that conflict. At the beginning of the play, his annoyance with Mr. M is growing increasingly overwhelming for him. It's stronger and stronger, but he still feels the old relationship. And it's the conflict between what Mr. M expects of him and what he now thinks he should be able to do and to decide as a young man in matric. So you give the evidence, but you talk about it. I'd make 2 points well discussed for 3 marks or 3 separate points. Right, it's a really important question. Home language, you get that with poetry. And then finally, Isabel can be admired and discuss your view. Again, typical of the poetry essay question, do you find this admirable? Let us say if you're given African elegy, do you find what the attitude to Africa that Ben Okri expresses admirable? Discuss. It's the same thing. You do exactly the same thing. You discuss your view, you find the evidence. Now, this is going to lead you, I think, a little closer to the home language 25-mark essay question. Because in the shorter, the poetry essay or this one for FAL, you do not look for a counter argument. Right, let's just make sure you understand that. A counter argument is when you say, but no. So here, there's no counter argument. How is the theme relevant to Tommy? You're not going to say it's not relevant to Tommy. You're just going to give me the evidence and show me. But here, here you can say, actually, there are places with Isabel where I don't admire her. So for your 3 marks, you could go, I admire her for this, but I don't admire her here. So you could make 2 points plus the discussion would give you the 3 marks. So this is closer to the home language essay question. With the home language essay question, you get a topic, but lots of students tackle it by just agreeing with the topic and giving me the evidence. In other words, they treat the 25-mark essay question as if it were the poetry essay question. So with the poetry essay question, you take the topic, you agree with it, you find your evidence and you discuss it. So the topic doesn't require your own argument. But this question about whether you admire Isabel or not requires an argument, because you're admiring her for what? So you're going, but why should I admire her? Or if you're going here, why should I not admire her? And you need an argument. So let's have a look at the argument. When we first meet Isabel, she is in matric. She's in grade 12. But she is incredibly ignorant of what is happening in South Africa in 1985. She seems to be ignorant of the history of the country, especially issues that Tommy raises, like colonialism. And she seems to be oblivious. Oblivious is when you seem to know nothing about what is happening, and oblivious to the reality of Black lives. And that makes us think of the At Black Lives Matter. She doesn't seem to know what a Black life is like, what it is like to be a Black person. So can I admire that? Well, no, actually, I can't. I don't know how you feel. Now, you might argue, yes, but Isabel is white. She's a girl, and girls are more protected than boys. And she's grown up in this incredibly protected environment. It's not her fault. But she's not in grade 7. She's in grade 12. You know, how long are you going to say it is all right for white people not to know what's happening in the country? I have an issue with that. Yes, I do think little children are protected. And you protect your children from the ugliness of the world. But there comes a point where you have to talk to your children. And even if you're in an all-white, all-girls school, you need to know that out there are boys, and out there are people of color. And you need to know what's happening to them. Because look at what Isabel says. She has a discussion with Tommy about their plans for the future. And she has that gung-ho attitude of, I'm going to go to university. Look at the complete expectation. I'm going to study journalism. I'm going to have a career. And you know, I'm probably going to end up having a family and being a wife and a mother and earning a salary. A career means a salary. And then she says to Tommy, so what are your plans? She doesn't seem to be aware that going to a university of your choice is not open to black people in 1985. Their choices are extremely limited. What about saying, I want to go to a university in Johannesburg or Cape Town? You know, can you choose those things? She wants to go off and do journalism. She wants to be a journalist. Don't we want journalists to have knowledge, to be critical, to go out there and find out what is going on and tell us? She seems to have no critical qualities at all. She assumes a career and a salary. But the black people that she talks about are the maid at home and the delivery man who works for her father. Career, good salary. I mean, and are we going to say that's okay? She's a protected white girl. It doesn't matter that she hasn't put two and two together and come up with anything. So do we admire her? Not at the beginning of the play. Do I admire her for going off to the township to enter the debate? Well, she doesn't admire herself in the end. She says that she had such a wrong idea. She said the debaters saw themselves as doing the black children a favor. I am this privileged white child coming to your underprivileged school to show you ignorant black children how to debate. And she realizes afterwards that she's incredibly embarrassed by her attitude, because she realizes, whoa, that was a mistake. I'm not doing them a favor. Yes, I am white privileged, but I don't have to show them how to debate. They're not ignorant. They're extremely capable, and I never imagined that they were. They're capable, they're intelligent, and more than that, the black children were objective enough. In other words, they used their minds and their reasoning. In the end, they voted for the white team because they said that team had made better points. So they were much better and much more intelligent and capable than she'd imagined. So her attitude was, do you know the word patronizing? Because that's what she was when she thought, I'm going to educate these poor black children and I'm being so kind to them. And she realizes afterwards, whoa, that actually makes me feel terrible. My attitude to these children was so wrong. So I can admire her for that. I can admire her for recognizing that her attitude was actually disgusting. Let's be honest here. I can admire her for wanting a friendship with Tommy because she realizes how out of touch she is. So if we go back to the privileged, protected white girl, she realizes she's completely out of touch. She realizes this ignorance. And one of the ways she sees to try to change that is to become friends with Tommy. I admire that. I'm not sure what else you would say. I don't know how you feel about her inability to understand Tommy's point of view. She just does not understand the anger and the violence that young people use to change the system. And she certainly doesn't understand the death of Mr. M. She calls it murder. And Tommy says he cannot use this word because this has such a moral and religious and legal condemnation of what happens. And Tommy actually gets very frustrated with her. So Tommy finds this enormously frustrating, that she cannot understand. She cannot see why the people are behaving in this way. Right, so just to come back to how you answer the question, well, home language students, do you see that in trying to answer this question, I've basically headed for a 25-mark essay? That what would I do for 3 marks? Whoa. Well, first of all, I would plan, people. I would actually plan and say, okay, what do I want to say? I jot down some of these ideas and then try to choose. So maybe I would choose, I do not admire her when she is a patronizing, overprotected white girl who has never challenged her own ignorance, never looked beyond her own very protected world. And I'd have to leave out the whole thing about, you know, the black people that she knows and so on. And I'd probably have to leave out all of this. And then I would say something like, but I do admire her when she recognizes how wrong she has been. And this would work quite nicely, because if I've just chosen her ignorance, then that would actually be very nice as a backup for that she chooses to try to remove that ignorance by finding out more and by eagerly looking for a friendship with Tommy. Okay, so then just to go back to the home language students. So you are given a topic for your 25-mark essay. That topic is not your thesis statement. That topic is not your argument. You have to make an argument in answer to that topic. So if we just use the example of Isabel, you'd say she is both admirable and the audience condemns her because of her attitudes. Something like that. So you are focusing on her attitudes. Make her either admirable or make her not admirable. That's a thesis statement. Now you, as a home language student, have to get to that thesis statement in answer to the topic. You can't just take the topic. Well, I hope somebody else asks a question so I can go on and explain that a little bit more. But thank you for joining me this afternoon. Thank you for your questions. Please keep sending them in and join me again next time. Bye-bye.
What's up, peeps? Welcome to Moby School. We are here to make sure that you, yes, you get all the marks that you deserve on the go. We're here every Mondays to Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. only on Mindset Learn TV. Now, this is a whole hour worth of revision just for you, and I hope that you've got your notepads and your pens ready, and that you and your study group are game for today's revision session. Now, my name is Joel, and just like you, I am also in matric, and I'm here for a whole hour to make sure that I ace my final exams, and I hope that you will be doing the exact same thing. Now, do remember that we love hearing from you guys, so log on to our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/MobySchoolSA. Drop us your comments, like our page, share the page, and even spread the Moby School family even bigger. Now, isn't that cool? Yep. Yes, it is. Now, do remember that you can catch us here for a whole hour of revision session where all of our awesome teachers come right here to help you guys revise. So on that note of the first revision session, let's head straight to our teacher.
My name is Nelson. We'll be looking at Mathematical Literacy, Paper 1. This paper consists of 5 questions. Question 1, 2, 3, 4. They are according to the topics. And the last question, which is question 5, we're trying to integrate the topics. Now, question 1, which is basically on finance, the question consists of roughly 35 marks, and you work for 41 to 42 minutes on it. And question 2 consists of 34 marks, and you work roughly for 41 minutes. Question 3, that is basically on measurement, it's roughly 24 marks, and you work for 29 minutes. And question 4, it's 23 marks, roughly you need like 27 minutes. And the last question, that includes almost all, or at least 3 topics, consists of 34 marks and roughly 41 minutes. And remember, the paper has the levels. Okay, paper 1 is level 1, 2, 3. There is no level 4. Okay, level 1 is roughly 60%. That will be almost 90 marks. And then level 2, which is 35%, that amounts to roughly 52 marks. And level 3, 8 marks, 5%, roughly so. Okay, and then these topics, again, the weight of the topics is as follows. Like finance. Finance will be 40%, roughly, guys, from 35 to 40%, and then which amounts to 60 marks. And measurement will be like 20%, that is 30. And then maps and plans will be roughly 23 marks, which is roughly 15%. And the last one, which is data handling, 25%, which is roughly 37 marks. Now, let's look at the instructions for this paper. Instructions and information, as you always have it. Please take note of the following. Number 1, this paper consists of 5 questions. Answer all the questions. Compulsory, every question, 5 of them. Number 2, answer question 4.2.2 on Annexure C. Write your name and grade and or class in the space provided on this annexure, and hand in the annexure with your answer book. Number 3, use annexure